Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
I'm David.
Welcome to August. Today, the day that this episode is coming out, is August 1st,
August 1.
which means it's time for something new. It doesn't really mean that. We kind of have not done that ever, but new month, new start. That's how it's going to work this time. So we have a
Try
theme,
something different.
which is very exciting. If you're a member of our Discord, you know about it. If you I don't know. Did we mention it? I think we mentioned it on our Instagram.
We mentioned it on our
earlier in the week.
on our Insta.
So if you follow us there and you watch, our lives whenever we do them, you might have heard about it. But without further ado, we're doing Pick-a-Pitt August, I guess. Where we're gonna
In August.
every month
Jump
we're
week in
picking a
June.
Brad Pitt movie.
Doing Brad Pitt.
Every week. Yeah. So Brad Pitt has a new movie coming out this month, which is kind of why we did it. There's no other real reason that I'm aware of for Brad Pitt and August. I don't think he was born this month, but he does have a new movie, Bullet Train, coming out, and we are going to talk about Bullet Train this month. But we figured why not fill the rest of the month with some other classic Pitt picks. So today we're going to talk about what for a lot of people might be like the obvious, the top Pitt pick, or maybe it's just middling for you. I don't know. We're talking about Fight Club. Fight Club.
I looked it up last night, and if you go on Letterboxd, I'm sure there's some other sites I could do. I'm fighting a child over here. And if you go on Letterboxd and you search by cast members and you pull up just Brad Pitt's movies, it's his third ranked movie or his second ranked movie on Letterboxd. So
Really?
yes, which is surprising and not surprising at the same time. So I thought it's going to be, because we were considering doing a poll of our Discord or of our Twitter or Instagram, wherever. And I just kind of thought this is going to be done to us, so we might as well do it to ourselves and watch Fight Club from way back in 1999.
Yeah, 1999. You mentioned Letterboxd, so I wanted to ask real quick: did you guys get the Easter egg did you log it on Letterboxd yet?
I did.
I
did. I didn't do it on purpose, but I was like, I'm just gonna write this now while I'm thinking about it. And yes, do you want to spoil it for Garrett?
No, I think I know what it is. Is it changes it from stars to fists?
No. Well, what it
Does it do that? It might do that too. I don't know.
Well, it does have a fist emoji when you do it, but it says when you log a review for Fight Club on Letterboxd, it says you're about to break the first and second rule of Fight Club. Are you sure you want to continue? And
you can click letter rep or
cancel.
No way.
Why would you ever cancel your review? But yes, I was like, oh dang, yeah, that's pretty. I was in a certain mood after the movie, but that did make me feel better.
Yeah. So Fight Club, like David said, came out in 1999. Directed by David Fincher, starring Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, Helena Bonham Carter, and an assortment of other actors, including Meatloaf, a young Jared Leto, and others. But interesting.
Is Jared Leto aged at all? Like, he seems like
he really hasn't. He's
aged for 4 years.
If I can compliment him on anything, it is his youthful appearance.
He's a baby face. Angel face, as some might call him.
Or just an actual vampire. Morbius. Anyway, Fight Club. Everybody knows it, I feel like. So let's just get into it. Does anyone have any searing thoughts? Any hot takes, big changes from your first viewing? I don't know. Anyone?
I don't know. Garrett, I want to hear from you first, if you're willing and able.
Yeah. So I haven't seen this movie very often. I didn't see it when it came out. My first experience with it was recent, 4 or 5 years ago or so. And I enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it. I think what I appreciate about this movie is genuinely the story that's being told from start to finish. The unraveling of everything and the tying the pieces together. Yes, it can be muddled. Yes, it can be interpreted in one way or another. But like that last 30 minutes where Ed Norton figures it out, it changes the dynamic, and it does, for me, something different than those split personality movies usually do. It takes it in a detective route. And now he's figured out that he is Tyler Durden, and now he's trying to figure out what the heck Tyler Durden is doing and trying to fix it and solve and fix the problem that he caused. And that was different. I really enjoyed that dynamic and turning it into a detective movie and not just solely focusing on the split. I really enjoyed that. I think that it can be like misinterpreted if you're not careful, and then you go down that toxic masculinity route and that dangers of all of that, and you like it rather than push away from it. And so I think there is a danger, and I think when this movie came out was called out for that. But I think that if you understand the message that they're trying to send, then you can avoid that. But I really do just appreciate the storytelling from start to finish of this.
Yeah, I agree with that because for me, I think that the style and the editing and the use of I think the sort of like there is a sort of like at times meta component to it where they call out. I mean, there's a very specific point in the movie where Ed Norton's just he goes beyond just casual narrator to just directly looking into the camera, telling you parts of the story, highlighting this is what happens in movie making with editing, highlighting this is like at one point he says he goes it's called the oh gosh what does he say? So he says like it's called like the blackout. The movie goes on, but the audience doesn't know what's happening and he wakes up after he has like a blackout moment. There is a at the at the end of the movie after we because the movie opens at the end and we have this prolonged flashback. And when he comes back, Edward Norton's character changes the line. The line at the beginning of the movie was, I can't think of anything." At the end, he says, "I still can't think of anything." And Brad Pitt says, "Yeah, flashback humor." Right? There's like a little bit of like a meta thing going on there. I think those parts are interesting and cool, and I like Ed Norton and I like Brad Pitt, but this movie sits in a very similar headspace for me as like American History X, where I watched it one time and I got what I needed to get out of it. And then like every time after, I just feel gross thinking about it. Like American History X is that type of movie, again with Ed Norton, where it is a very like honest critique of the worst parts of at the very least American life, but humanity. And it's brutal, it's ugly, it's a very gross depiction of some of our worst aspects. And this movie being sort of a critique and highlight of early stage fascism and nihilism and terrorism and things like that. American History X based more solely on just white supremacy and things like that. I really didn't like rewatching it. It just makes me feel awful at times. I mean, I, all of the aesthetic things that I love about it, I still think are good. I really love Ed Norton in this. I really love Brad Pitt. I love a lot of the style of it, the grunginess, but it's just I feel like it makes my skin crawl. It's I was reading a lot of different reviews from 1998. I don't remember who said it, but there was a review that called it nerve chafing. And that's how I would describe it too. Um, it is a movie that I feel like is dangerous for 14-year-olds. But they're the people who find it and watch it and go, "Whoa, that was like speaking to me," but they take the wrong message away, like you said, Garrett. I don't know.
It was
I
and
watched
one
it
of the
this time. When I did watch it this time, because this is probably the first time I watched it since I was like 20. I was folk. I took on a very different uh viewing, and I'll mention it in a minute because I want to hear from Josh about his overall thoughts.
Yeah. I watched this movie for the first time as a teenager, I think. Yeah, because it would sometime around high school. And I really liked it a lot. And I think at that time I took the wrong message, like you all have said, because and this is I don't know that it sells the message well enough, because it is too easy to think, "Oh, yeah, this is awesome," in terms of, like, "This is how I wanna live my life." Because dudes in particular, a lot of men, have that affiliation with this film. Um, and watching it now, so many years later, I I think I agree with David a little bit that it gave me a bit of an ick, um, because it is so in your face gross and messy and, like, not just in a like, gross way, like when, they spill that bag of human fat all over each other, that's actually gross, but just in, like, the way the characters behave and all that stuff is, like, who this is truly one of those movies where, like, you're not supposed to root for anyone, and if you are, you need to rethink the movie a little bit because these are not good people, but that's the point. I think this is a commentary on a lot of things at once, and it did it. So toxic masculinity, first example. Um, the societal conversation around that subject was not what it was, or it was not in 1999 what it is today. So it feels different watching it through today's lens because you watch it through today's lens and you're like, oh, this movie's nothing but a bunch of tropes and nonsense. But that movie kind of set the tropes. And it wasn't that way at the time as much. So I think I think that's why it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially back when it came out, because I understood this to be very controversial when it came out and not particularly well liked for a long time. Um, because it feels like, "Oh, no, this is terrible," but we weren't talking about it enough to see it in society, I think. I don't know. This is my brain ramblings, but that's just kinda what I felt about the commentary. Otherwise, though, it's a very well-made movie. I like David Fincher's directing style. Yes, I Ed Norton and Brad Pitt are really good in it. Most of the cast is really good in it. Um A shining star is always Meatloaf as Robert Paulson to me because he's just so I don't know. He's just
You
so
don't you don't expect that from Meatloaf.
no,
Like,
and
that
he
is
owns
such a
it.
tender kind of a
Yeah,
performance, and then
he's
you just see him go down that, and it's really heartbreaking, and Meatloaf delivers, like, he does a
yeah,
great job.
he's like the kindest character in the film. Um, and yeah, it sucks to watch his evolution throughout it and then what ultimately happens to him. But what is really fascinating to me about this movie is more about what was happening in America in 1999, because this
Yeah.
is one of 3 significant movies that came out. Uh, um, Fight Club, The Matrix, and Office Space that are a direct in your face commentary on consumerism and, capitalism and just the 9 to 5 life in America.
Yeah,
And
the
I
rat
think
race.
that is super fascinating that these 3 movies that have stood the test of time came out in that same year, all talking about this desire to escape the mundane. The Matrix is literally like you're trapped in a computer and you have to take a pill to get out.
Yeah.
Ed
Stuck in
Norton,
1999.
yes, he uses Fight Club and he uses his support groups to find any kind of feeling, and then Office Space, they burn.
I connected this with, the pandemic and how people feel, to some extent after that, where you've been trapped inside or you're stuck in an office now and people are just in general trying to feel something. And so I still felt that was relatable in a different way where, you might be feeling down because of depression was really high whenever you got into the pandemic and you were just trying to create something and trying to feel something and you get lost down that rabbit hole and you just go, 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 go. And it was, I think it says a lot about what we've seen recently with January 6th and like how people kind of go into tribalism and following things just based on what they sound. And I think it really is still a very powerful and timely film to watch for certain commentary that we still see. So I thought that was really interesting too, that I was able to connect it with the current political climate and the pandemic.
Yep. And in doing a little bit of research, the movie is uh, often compared to A Clockwork Orange because similarly, that was a movie that had commentary and criticism of violence and the sort of like the glorification of it, right? And this movie similarly walks a very similar path of people being like, look, I think people are like, clearly it's supposed to be highlighting how bad this is, but there's a lot in there for people to take away and be like, oh no, I actually feel that way. The way that so it is. A lot of people at the time called it controversial. They called it dangerous. Um, my favorite stat about this movie was that in 1999 it was called the ultimate anti-date movie, and I can tell you right now, do not watch this with your girlfriend or your wife. They will probably hate it
I
if
can't even
they haven't
imagine
already.
like taking a date to the theater when this came out to watch this movie. Yeah,
No,
it's not going to foster a connection.
no, I was looking at some stats, and like the demographic for opening weekend was 68% male, and I was like, that's a heavy male audience. That's a like clearly whatever marketing did work, it got the demo. It got the young male demo. But yeah, it was referred to as the anti-date movie, and for I think a lot of good reasons.
I didn't go into a lot of detail to find out exactly what was changed, but I read that the studio altered the marketing when it came out because um it's this apparently the studio didn't like the movie. And so they were trying to find a way to market it differently. And I don't know what the comparison is, but that just goes maybe they changed it to a way
I,
to appeal more directly to men or something. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't often get into this detail level about it, but this because this is an older movie. There's a lot more story about it, and its legacy and its aftermath. And like this movie basically got the head of 20th Century Fox fired at the time because he really went to bat for it, and then it didn't perform that great. Which we'll get into. We'll get into the at the end of the show, but it performed that great, and so this is a name that you guys will probably know. Rupert Murdoch fired that guy for for its underperformance, and Rupert Murdoch apparently hated it. So
Now I can see why Rupert Murdoch might
yeah,
hate it.
go figure.
Let's transition though, boys, and talk about the man of the hour, Brad Pitt
Right.
himself, and his performance in this movie. Because if I can say, we have already done the Ocean's movies. Go back and
Right.
listen to that. Listen to this one if you want to see what Rusty looks like on meth, because that is what Tyler Durden is to me. It's just a cracked out performance of Rusty from Ocean's movies, and I really enjoyed seeing that
It,
fire too.
the trick of this movie, the twist of this movie, in some ways, I feel like in the long run overshadows whatever the message was. Josh, like you said, the message isn't as clear, and I think it's because the twist that Tyler Durden isn't real is so, I think, from a young viewer standpoint, cool. Like, oh my gosh. And you start rethinking the whole movie, you start thinking about every interaction that the narrator had with everybody and how Tyler plays into that. It's like, oh my gosh. It's so mind blowing, right? But from a performance standpoint, Brad Pitt is so, I think, compelling as Tyler Durden, as much as like a scumbag as Tyler is. Like he's like presented as like a really bad person. All things, taking in every aspect of him. He's so compelling. The way he talks, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt. I don't think has an overly distinct voice, but when he gets going on a monologue, he is very hypnotic in the way that he monologues. And so like you kind of get why people would buy into his thing. And so like I think the style of it, the jackets, the hair, the glasses, it all comes together to present this really detestable, for I was gonna say it, villain of the movie.
Yeah. He's Brad Pitt does what Brad Pitt does best, I think, in this movie. So it's like I don't even know what to say about it because it's almost I don't know, it's almost one of those roles for him where like he's really good at it, but it's almost like he's so good at that kind of character that I'm not even impressed anymore. Does that
Yeah,
make any sort of sense? Like I
yeah,
don't think of Tyler Durden as one of Brad Pitt's best performances, to be honest with you. And it's not because I think it's a bad performance. It's just because I think there are so many better ones.
I
well,
think
and
that this shows his a bit. Like I think what this one really does is show his range. because he starts off in this, it's kind of a dramatic mystery kind of a thing. And then as it goes on, his clothes change. He gets more ridiculous. He gets more over the top. And then you get less of that dramatic Brad Pitt that we see, and you get more of that Brad Pitt that's leaning into the humor and just really going over the top. And so for me, I think it's a big picture of what he can do. While I don't think it is his best performance overall, I do think that it is very well rounded, and that is set the tone for Brad Pitt. I
Yeah.
think that you see the dramatic, you see the humor, you see the ability to be very intimidating and magnetizing too. I think it just really lays the groundwork for him to build on every facet of
Yeah, it's a very interesting point in his career because honestly, this is gosh, I mean, when was Brad Pitt not on top in terms of like movie stardom, but like there was a lot of like supporting roles and then I guess you could start with Interview with the Vampire, but basically from 1994 to 2002, it's just like Brad Pitt in successful film after successful film because here's just here's just here's just 96 to 2000 is you have 7. Sorry, that was 95, but 7, and then you have Meet Joe Black, Fight Club, Being John Malkovich, Snatch, The Mexican, Spy Game, Ocean's 11. And that's like a 5-year period where Brad Pitt's just everywhere. He's, and doing a lot of different things. I do think that this is an interesting one in the middle because if we think about it, we really remember this is kind of when it first came out, kind of unsung. Like it didn't do super well at the box office. It was kind of disliked by the studio. They were trying to bury it. And then it blew up in home video. And so like it's I think a lot of people don't think of it as his best one. It's his like for the longest time it was like a secret role almost because it was so downplayed when it came out. But I think it just kind of yeah, like you said, Garrett, it shows a little bit of his range. When he's getting beat up and he's laughing through getting his face kicked in, that for me is kind of like one of those more standout parts because it's just so gritty and ugly and dark. He's just blood all over his face, and he just starts spitting blood all over this dude. It's disgusting.
Here's a
But
review from Stephen Hunter of the Washington Post from October of 1999 about Brad Pitt. He says, Pitt's Tyler Durden is the cataclysmer. It's a perfect role for an actor as shallow, beautiful, and cool as Pitt.
whoa,
So I don't feel like that performance was well received. Or in the article, they also admit that they do not like Brad Pitt at the time.
yeah.
I'm very interested to see how that has changed over time.
Well, they
Because
called him shallow as a
called
performer.
him
That's
shallow.
very harsh.
It is. It was a very harsh.
And maybe he
review.
was,
Looking at 2020, I think it's a good performance.
and I think Brad Pitt, I think for a long time had a lot to prove. I'm not trying to
I think you're right. I think
excuses
you're
for
right.
it.
Right.
For a
He
long
was
time, I think
beautiful,
he was
he was good, and he
yeah.
seems down to earth. Like he doesn't seem at the time over the like he doesn't have that same Hollywood allure, but he's already just knocking movies out of the park, like you named it. So I think that even though he was coming in hot because of his charm or whatever, I don't know if I feel like that too.
I think this is gosh, I'm gonna get fruit thrown in my head probably, but I think a very interesting comparison would be like a Zac Efron, where like people like at first just see them as like, oh, just good looking guy, right? That's all they are. They're just good looking, you know, leading man type, right? And then they kind of have to prove themselves over time with dramatic roles and serious roles and roles you don't expect from them. Um, because like one of the first movies that he ever got like real acclaim for was like Thelma and Louise, where he's just like hot hunk, right? And so I think that there's an element there of like sometimes actors really have to like do like you said, Garrett, show all that different range before they really, And we look fondly at these movies now, but like at the time, all of these were kind of like weird movies for a general audience. Can I tell you something that I did with this watch that I'm glad to find out there's actually like there's like film analysis for a movement for,
Yes.
and that is that Marla is not real as well. Marla, as played by Helena Bonham Carter. As I was watching the movie this time, I was like, a lot of the motifs that they seem to use for Tyler Durden seem to also apply to her. Other people generally don't seem to react to her. She seems like she's also like, when does he first see her? He first sees her while he's doing this thing of like sneaking in on self-help groups, right? And then he hates her because he knows that she's like doing the same thing he is, right? Maybe that's just a manifestation of his own self-loathing appearing in a different form for him to hate. And then I'm glad that I looked it up and I have found like a whole film essay about how Marla may not also be real. Now, I don't guess the writer of the book has ever confirmed this, but I feel like if you watch the movie, there's a lot of people like at one point she just stands in traffic and cars just drive past her and they don't stop until Ed Norton walks into the road. You know, like there's a lot of
Hmm.
things like that where it feels like that could be like, and that kind of for me, like watching it through this time, I was like, I'm just gonna watch this because as I noticed it early on, I was like, I'm gonna watch this and see if there's any other clues that maybe Marla is also a figment of his imagination.
Interesting idea. I
I
don't.
also had that, but I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't really. The movie's so old now that if they haven't confirmed it, I think that that's probably nonsense.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
probably is. It's probably just people wanting to find more meaning in it. Um, but as I was watching it, it just kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, it's a fun theory for sure.
Go ahead and jump into the box office, David.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
That-
Yeah, let's leap way back to 1999, October 15th, 1999. I was just a lad of 9 years old.
Just a wee little Chad.
I was a wee Chad. That was before I changed my name to David. I was a child lad of 9 years old, and Fight Club opened, like I said, October 15th to $11 million in about 1,900 theaters. It was number one at the box office, beating out Double Jeopardy, which brought in $10 million in its fourth week. At number three, you had The Story of Us. At number four, Three Kings. And at number five, American Beauty. So honestly, looking at it, and those movies did like 9, 7, and 6, respectively. Wasn't like a high mark week for the box office in general. That underperformance would kind of continue to the next week where it would drop down to 6 million, 3 million, and then it was out of the top 10 by week 4. So like it was not a wildly successful movie in the United States. On a budget of about, I think the budget I read was about $60 million. Overseas, it brought in 63 million to give it a worldwide total of about 100 million. So it didn't break even though until home video is what I looked up. In home video, it did wild on DVD sales because they actually did a little bit of like work on the DVD release. The first DVDs came in this like brown package, like almost like the like it was like and like I mean like a brown paper bag package. Like so it looked like it wasn't supposed to be bought, you know what I mean? So like it got a lot of attention that way. It made it huge in home video release and then continues to do huge home video release every time they release it on Blu-ray or some other new medium.
I have the
That's what
20th
it is.
anniversary, and it is a Never Been Kissed themed open
That's right.
on the mini screen.
I read about that. So yeah, it is a movie, and Wikipedia notes that it was after its home video release that the movie made a profit. So, which is something I don't really bring up too much, but it was in the Wikipedia article, so I was like, I'll go with that. For 1999, you would it was a big year. It was again, it's very interesting to think about this movie as being a movie that came out before 9/11 because I almost don't think it would have come out any time after that, just because of its content. But and we didn't talk about some of the, some people were inspired and they did try to create their own fight clubs and they did try to do that kind of stuff. In 1999, the number one movie of the year was Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. At number 2, The Sixth Sense. At number 3, you can listen to our review of Toy Story 2. At number 4, Austin Powers: The Spy Who Shagged Me. And at number 5, The Matrix. So I don't know where Fight Club finished on this list. It might not have finished anywhere.
Probably pretty low.
Yep.
Let me see here.
What do we think
Fight
our
Club
ratings are?
At number 54.
Mm. Um, 3.
This is our guess for Letterboxd. Or
No, just your own personal rankings. We'll get a letterbox here in a second.
yeah, I'm gonna say, when I was 15, I would have probably given it 5 stars, but I think growing up a little bit, I think I'm gonna give it like a 3, just because I don't know. I feel like keep watching it, but I still, it's the performances. It got a full star just for beating the shit out of Jared Leto. So I have
They
to
did
believe
make
that.
they did make him look unattractive in that movie after he got beat.
Ooh,
That was
beat him up. It's
I
but
give
it's
this one a 4 because of the storytelling. Really, from a storytelling purpose, like I really appreciate the start to finish and the unraveling and the different direction I feel like they took it in. Um, again, the messaging. I just see realism. Unfortunately, I see that it has happened. These
It's
people
unfortunate.
start following a crazy people and mindlessly start doing it, and it seems realistic and how I assume that process goes.
Sadly
So
prophetic.
there's an element of realism there for me that I just can't shake anymore. So I
Yeah.
think that it's
If it turns out if the writer ever confirms that Marla is not real, it'll go up another half star. So
There you go. Perfect.
What about Letterbox? What do we think it's
what's
got
on?
there?
Take a guess. I'm gonna guess it's I didn't see what it was rated, but I saw that it's rated like towards the top of Brad Pitt's. So I'm gonna say it's either a 3.9 or 4.0. I'm gonna say 4.0.
That's what I was gonna say. I guess I'll undercut you then a little bit and pick 3.8.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna give it. I think it's gonna be high. I think it's gonna be a 4.3.
4.3.
Yeah.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I have it pulled up. Hang on. Okay. We have a direct hit sunk my battleship situation with this movie's been watched a lot. Over 1 million ratings on Letterboxd.
How many?
1 million.
Oh my god, that's
To be exact, 1,027,007 rating.
that's a lot.
Wow.
I know. Speaking of a lot, I also saw Letterboxd announced last week, I think, that they have officially logged 1 billion films.
Hey, that's awesome.
So good for them. Maybe they'll.
Yeah, what
one
the
day.
fuck?
I've
Anyway,
seen like 900.
I've delayed enough. The winner is 4.3. Garrett is the exact winner.
Whoa, it's a
That is-
4.3.
It is very high in a way that concerns me for the men of Letterboxd, because I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It is that is obscenely high, I think. You hope that most of it's like, oh, this movie is great for the right reason. I mean, that's up. I know that's obvious. So what's 7? Can we look that up? Well, we doing 7.
Let's tease it for next week because next week we are still talking about Brad Pitt movies. So let's make sure we hype up Mr. Pitt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
Whenever we can.
Oh, fast. Okay.
Next week.
Yeah.
Do we want to say what we're gonna do, John? I think
I don't know the answer. I forgot. So
Do you want to go next?
I can. Why not?
Yeah, because I think I've changed my mind.
Oh well, then I will go.
Cut it off, Mike. We'll talk
And
about it.
next week, we will talk about the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Oh, I've never seen that.
The title.
I haven't.
I hadn't seen it
first.
either, and it's highly ranked in a lot of lists talking about Brad Pitt's performances over the years. So I thought, you know what? Why not? It's a different kind of Pitt. It's a Western Pitt. It is unfortunately long, so I apologize for this.
Hey, if it's a good movie, I don't care.
I did my best. A lot of his movies are long. The other one I was interested in because I had heard a lot of interesting things about it was Meet Joe Black, and that movie is actually over 3 hours long.
Wow, good grief.
So I was like, I can't do that. I won't go.
Did you find Brad Pitt's movies and then sort by runtime?
I didn't. I just happened to notice. Because when I
That's
looked
a
at
long
it, I tried to
movie.
be cognizant of the time because, who wants to watch a 3-hour movie all the time? Anyway, yeah, so we'll do the assassination of Jesse James next week. And then I think after that, we do Bullet Train, right? And
Yeah.
finish with your pick. Okay.
Oh no! Yeah.
Well, I guess Bullet Train will actually probably be in
Next
between. Yeah. because we'll
You
crank
guys
that.
figure it
We'll
out. You're
figure it out.
subscribing. You just get whatever we send you and you like.
You're gonna get picked all month. That's what you need to know.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for this week. Since I forgot again to say it at the top of the show, I'm saying it out loud now to remind me. You should check out our Patreon page. Just search So Many Sequels there. If you subscribe, the biggest benefit is you get access to our cast and crew Discord channel where we talk about movies and all kinds of fun stuff with other people. So go check that out. The prices are really low. I think you can get in with $1 if I remember right. So go check that out if you like us and you want to support us a little bit. We would really appreciate it. It would help with website stuff and Zoom and all that. So check that out. And of course, all our other social media, you can find it so manysequels.com. We'll see y'all next time with more Brad Pitt.